I picked another leadership slash management topic that's going to be very relevant for us because it is about how to manage change in your organization. Eurofurence means a lot of change all the time. We are working hard on changing our organization. We have to grow our teams. We have to do things differently pretty much every time. And I am going to tell you a few pointers and basics how you can make that easier, both as someone who is subjected to change and someone who wants to make change happen. So first thing I want to talk about is how human beings tend to cope with change. I'm still getting PTSD from that picture, and it's already, I think, 20 years old, but it's still as true as always. There is something that you might have heard about, and it's called the change curve. There, in research, people have made the discovery that human beings tend to go through a more or less predictable change of emotions when they are subjected to change. It is sometimes divided into 5 different phases, some divided into 7, but the different models are all more or less the same. So in this diagram, you basically see the emotional energy on the y-axis. So there are phases in the acceptance of change where people tend to get active, and there seems to be phases where they're more passive. And you have time on the x-axis. And the first thing, so this change curve describes these phases. And I've also made a little note which kind of research this is based on. You might all have heard about the 5 phases of grief. There have been made a lot of memes about it. And that's basically an extension of it, because people found out that they respond to this not only to tragic things that happen, basically to everything that happens. Okay, yeah, what can you do with it? I will talk about that a little bit later. Just go through the phases real quick. The first reaction you typically get is a reaction of shock. Like your boss comes and says, "You're fired." Yeah, what do you see? You react with shock. It immobilizes you. Same when the CCH comes and tells us, "Hey, look, we are going to be 30% more expensive." First week, we're in phase 1, 100%. Then the next phase is usually where you get active because you're trying to resist. You go like, "Oh, this can't be, you know? This is I'm not paying that. No, there's no way I'm going to pay that." And then you start sitting together and think what you can do, and you get really angry about them. Those fuckers are increasing the prices again. We're going to show them. We're going to show them. And then the next phase is bargaining. This is also in some models called rational acceptance. That's when you came to terms with what is happening, and now you're trying to make the best of it. When we are talking to our business partners, of course, that's quite literally bargaining, because that's when we start negotiations. The next phase is then typically sometimes called depression. In the German version, they also sometimes call it Trauer. So it depends a little bit on what is actually happening. And this is when you also emotionally start to come to terms with the whole thing. And usually when you are trying to get over emotional situations, that will put you in a more of a passive mood. And sometimes that's a little bit of that valley that's really hard to get out of. And at some point, everybody will accept the changes and find a way to work with them. And that's the phase number 6, where people are trying to come up with creative ways how to deal with the change, maybe how to enact the change, how to be a part of that. And well, at the end, change is through. And that's what sometimes is called the institution phase. So where change becomes part of your normal, the change becomes part of your normal life. And basically, that's the phase you want to reach the fastest. So, and this simple curve allows you to do a couple of things. First of all, it makes things very predictable. Even if you don't think about it, you will find at least parts of this in your own reactions. So if you're going to break the news to someone that things are going to change, expect this to happen to some degree, or even to yourself. Realizing this helps. So you can be prepared. You can actually realize which phase you're in at the moment. And when you find yourself like in the frustration phase or so, you already know and say, okay, maybe I should get over this. You know, maybe I should find ways to deal with it. Sure, with that, you can ask yourself, if I'm a team leader and I have people in my team and they are reacting to changes in my organization or changes in their own role, maybe, you can find out which phase they are in, and there are things you can do to move them through this curve more quickly. I'm not going to do this in detail because I promised to do this in half an hour and not like more than an hour last time. But if you look for the 7 phases of change, you will find plenty of resources online and lots of people who want to sell you very expensive trainings about that. But still, if you know this exists and you know that you can look it up, that will already potentially help you a lot. Yeah, so let's see if this works. This should have sound. I've found a very nice visualization of the different phases.
There's got to be something I haven't tried, huh? Hey, what's this? Fugu!
It is blowfish, sir. But I should warn you that one...
Come on, pal, Fugu me!
Poison, tasty fish. Concentrate.
I want Fugu! Fan Fugu-tastic.
For God's sake, don't eat another bite!
Oh, I couldn't possibly.
Mr. Simpson-san, I shall be blunt. We have reason to believe you have eaten poison.
Poison? What should I do? What should I do? Tell me quick. Try something new, Homer. What'll it hurt you, Homer? I never heard of a poison pork chop.
Your wife agreed that I should break this to you.
No need, Doc. I can read Marge like a book. Woo! It's good news, isn't it?
No, Mr. Simpson.
Oh.
If, in fact, you've consumed the venom of the blowfish, and from what the chef has told me, it's quite probable, you have 24 hours to live.
24 hours?
Well, 22. I'm sorry I kept you waiting so long.
Oh, Marge, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die.
Well, if there's one consolation, it's that you'll feel no pain at all until sometime tomorrow evening when your heart suddenly explodes. Now, a little death anxiety is normal. You can expect to go through 5 stages. The first is denial.
No way, because I'm not dying.
Second is anger.
Why, you little...
After that comes fear.
What's after fear? What's after fear?
Bargaining.
Doc, you gotta get me out of this. I'll make it worth your while.
Finally, acceptance.
Well, we all gotta go sometime.
Mr. Simpson, your progress astounds me. I should leave you two alone. Perhaps this pamphlet will be helpful.
So you're going to die.
Yeah, so the faster you go through that curve, the easier it is to get over the change. So that was mostly about when you are at the receiving side of change. But what is if you're the one who wants to make change happen? And there's a million different models that can help you get through the change. But the most important thing to learn here is that it takes effort. Change doesn't happen by itself. And there's a couple of things that you should do. I'm not sponsored by this, but I'm going to tell you about this book I found, and it's really entertaining, and it's furry. The book is called Our Iceberg is Melting, and it was written by John Cotter, who made a very the kind of industry standard 8-step plan how to successfully do change in your organization. And the nice thing about this book is that it's not an academic book. It's a wonderfully illustrated animal fable that tells you the story of, I think, Frank, the penguin, who finds out that the iceberg they are living on is melting. And Frank goes and thinks, well, damn, what do I do now? I'm not going to retell the entire book. I'm just giving you the summary of what the 8 quintessential results of the story are. But I would still highly recommend to get this book, or at least get it as an ebook, and have a look, because they are really, really explaining it for like a 5-year-old, and it's easy to understand. So what John Cotter says is that before you do any changes in your organization, it's very important to create a sense of urgency. Why is that? Because when you're like that penguin on the iceberg, first you need to get more people to realize that change is needed and that it's urgent. This will give people a change of mindset. If you say, look, this change is necessary. If you remember, before we moved to Hamburg, how much we struggled with actually changing anything. We were getting into like a routine of doing things the same way all the time. But the moment that we knew we need to change venues, we need to make a big change, and it's urgent, we have half a year to do this. This activated a lot of energy. And suddenly we went from what is called operational mode into delivery mode. It's like, now is the time to do something because it has to be done. So we had a sense of urgency. And the old adage is, it's easier to steer a moving object. Step 2 is pull together a team. Find other people who want to do this with you, because if you're alone, you're not going to have a lot of credibility in doing changes. So make sure that that you find allies. And the team you put together needs to be able to actually work on these other steps. First thing is, the team must be trustworthy, believable, and honest. And by pulling more people together who stand in for the change, you can convince people that it's credible. Of course, then within an organization, you can't have change without the authority to actually enact a change. That's kind of easy. You need to have someone with some analytical skills, because that's essential to give people a mission and find out what is actually needed for the change. Communication is key, as always. And the classic leadership skills that we talked about the last time will also play a big role in this, because you will have different roles in enacting change. So something that is definitely needed is you need a vision and a strategy for the change. Like, I think 2 years ago, when I made my big speech about what the future will look like, or the future at least should look like, this is part of the plan that you absolutely must do. Because without that, people will never really know what the hell the change is going to be. And on the other hand, you need that vision so that people will have a sense of accomplishment when they reach something. Then all this stuff is not worth anything if the people in your organization are not part of it. So super important is that once you have that strategy, you need to go out and sell it. You need to show people what the strategy is. You need to present the reasons for the changes, everything. And you need buy-in. Buy-in is a word that's being thrown around a lot in management, and it's actually a word that comes from gambling. In a poker tournament, buying in is the process of entering a tournament that requires an upfront payment. And the size of the payment, otherwise known as the buy-in, determines the total winning prize pool. And I kind of like this analogy because what we want is a kind of buy-in where people tell us, yep, I understand your vision, I understand your strategy, and yes, I'm in with the game, I will invest. And this point is sometimes called you enlist a volunteer army, and which is really nice because I already have a volunteer army, which I'm very thankful for. But it's the thing, if you want large-scale change, yeah, you need a lot of people to actually do it. So then as a manager, once you've got things going, it's super important that you don't just proclaim the vision and the strategy. What is also very important is that you take as much of the barriers away to change that you can. That starts by just basically, remember when I did my big strategy talk, when I said, I want you officially to know that we are open for all these changes and that we will do everything in our power to actually make these things happen. So if you have good ideas, come with those ideas, you know, don't hold back, dare to dream, be innovative, and we were going to support you. Then super important is that you need to enable people to work across team borders. This is very important for us because we have, I think, something about 70 different official departments that have sometimes very specialized tasks, and change, especially if it's organizational change, will only work if we do this together. If two non-related departments work on something that is supposed to be the same change, they need to get together. And this is also sometimes called silos. There's an image from management where you talk about silos. What that means is that people are basically thinking in containers, and they only see their environment as this enclosed space that their own organizational space is, like their own group. And you need to overcome that. And also, when you are going to empower people, you need to find out which people are the ones you maybe want to empower. Sometimes you will immediately see and feel when you present your change who's in and who's not. So if you're planning something and you find other people, like if I look here and I see team leads that support the vision I'm presenting, I need to find out who these are, because these are the people I'm going to work with first. And these are the people that I need to look at when I want to remove hurdles or obstacles. So next thing that's important is to have something that's called short-term wins. And this is also easy to understand. You need to create clear, visible, unambiguous successes as soon as possible. Because having a sense of accomplishment and a sense of success is super critical, especially in the beginning, because making change happen in the beginning is harder before everything has grown any kind of momentum. At first, everybody's just stuck in that first part of the curve and they, oh my God, change, you know? And to get people along their change curve faster, it's important that you set goals that are attainable quickly, and that people also, if you can make it happen, feel that the change is good. Really, now, in all that talk, I am assuming that we want to change things for good. I think the talk for supervillain is sometimes in the afternoon. Yep. So I think what sums it up good is this little line there that says, present people with something that makes today better than yesterday and tomorrow better than today. or wins are the molecules of results. That's a nice poster. So yeah, think about the change curve. And by the way, that is also why I think opportunities like this general meeting are very important, because here we can make the results of change visible and give everybody the sense of accomplishment that they need. So then another thing that seems to be easy, but it's not, don't let up. The thing is, at the beginning of the changes are hard, but the more you get into it and the more people are involved in it, the easier it becomes. The less the resistance becomes, and the more people are willing to partake in it. What's also kind of important is start with the easier stuff. And when people have the motivation and the energy and the understanding of your vision, raise the bar for every coming wave, because people will then be ready for it, which they aren't at the beginning. So think about what else can be done, keep the momentum going. Also, when you do this, if you're ramping up the goals, make sure that you are not exhausting people. So when you do this, also make sure that you try to make things as efficient as possible. Like in the beginning, you probably need more meetings and more general consensus building than you need in the further stages. So think about it. What do we need to go on? And when you've done everything right, what ideally happened is that you have changed the culture of your organization. That the changes are now no longer the changes, they are the new normal. They are the new culture that you've created through your vision. How's that often phrased is exactly like this: hold on to the new ways of behaving and make sure they succeed until they become strong enough to replace old habits. Also, I've already talked about that. You will find out who your drivers are and who are very good at making those changes happen. So if you're already changing your organization, consider maybe making those people your future leaders. Yeah, always think you're putting a lot of work into it. You're investing a lot into something to make change happen. And also for yourself, you got to make it worth it. That's in the end. It's an investment. Stick with it. So last thing I want to talk about really quick. This is going to be like a superficial look on this. Of course, always, and the change curve tells us that you will meet resistance to change. Most people will resist change to some degree. And what's causing this? First, people might have a lack of understanding. So the thing is, I don't know what changes, why or how. And well, what might cause this? Perhaps they don't have enough information. Perhaps they misunderstood what you're trying to do. Maybe they don't trust you. Or maybe they simply have a different point of view from which they really don't understand what this is supposed to be about. They might lack the capability of being part of your change. Maybe they can't do it. Maybe they're lacking some kind of resource, either a personal resource, maybe they simply don't have the energy to do it, maybe they don't have the time to do it, maybe they don't have the mental health to do it. Can all be things why people might resist you. Maybe they have just a very low change tolerance because of this. Maybe they don't feel like they're up to it. Maybe they think like, oh, I can't do it. I'm not trained to do this. Yeah, maybe they simply don't have the resources and you need to give it to them. Maybe they don't have the necessary personnel or the necessary help or the necessary money to do it. Then last thing, maybe they're simply not motivated to help you because they have no personal interest in the changes that you want. And that can be the cause of particular interests. Maybe these people just simply want something different than you want, especially in a volunteer organization. This is super important because in a volunteer organization, you can't create alignment with force, you know? So you need to be very careful how to take part of particular interests. Maybe they are afraid of losing something. In a corporate setting, that would be maybe they're afraid they're going to have, you know, less days off or earn less money or lose in power. So this can happen. But change resistance is not necessarily a bad thing. The first thing is, yeah, there are good reasons to resist. And first thing is, resistance is a psychological function. It's part of what we are, and it's natural. It will happen. And it guards us, resistance in every life guards us from things that we find fearful or that we are anxious of, and that is a protective function. Humans do that. Then resistance prevents stupid things from happening because it gives us time to think about if the change we want is actually good or if the effect's actually the one we want. And the more important a thing is to be changed, the more resistance you usually get. It buys us time to learn and adapt. You know, when I go in front of an audience and I say, hey, I'm going to change 100 things, any more questions? And everybody would be just sitting there quiet. That would be creepy, and it wouldn't give me anything to work with. So in cases where people don't jump up and go like, yeah, I've always wanted this my whole life, some resistance is a great moment to start a discussion, to get people involved. Which brings us to, do I have any recommendations what to do when you meet resistance in a change process? First of all, you need to look for it. This is, again, pretty superficial, but you can just Google for it. First, resistance can be a driving force, but also a stopping force, depending on how it happens. Resistance can be open, so people can be literally protesting what you do, or some people will just resist quietly. You know, especially if people are financially dependent on you, they may just sit at their desk and do whatever you do, and they will just be super demotivated and yes, resort to malicious compliance and do all that stuff. And of course, some people might be resisting and don't even realize that they are. They might just think they have a very good argument and don't think much about it, but actually they're trying to prevent the change. So what can we do? Again, resistance is a natural reaction to change, and it is an entire emotional response. Most of the time, often over a fear of loss. And you cannot talk someone out of resistance simply because it has such a strong emotional component, and you can never talk anyone out of their feelings. What you can, however, do is reframe it, explore it, and work on it. You can sit down with people and say, hey, look, I know you are afraid, but look at it from another perspective. We're going to improve a lot of things doing this, and you might actually be better off. And another thing that is super important, that you just talk about it with people, so people get the feeling that you're actually listening to the reasons of their resistance. And even if you don't have like the final argument to win someone over, it's super important so that people know that they are part of it, and yeah, they are not just completely helpless against what's happening. And the rule of thumb is there is no change without resistance. Look at the change curve. Resistance always contains a coded message. If someone is resisting, no matter if they're doing it openly or closed, there's always something to learn about it, and they always want to tell you something, and it helps to find out what that is. If you ignore resistance, people will just block your progress. They will do everything they can. And if you can, go with the resistance, not against it. That sounds a little bit absurd, but in the end, it's just something that you need to make part of your progress and work with, maybe adapt your vision, maybe to take resistance seriously, read the coded messages, and that way you can make progress. And I have no idea how much time that took, but that's all, folks. Thank you so much for listening me rattling this down as fast as I could. If everything worked, this should have been recorded, so you might be able to watch it at half speed again. Thank you for your time.